Hello, welcome to the Curator Podcast. This is episode 24. Hi, hello, welcome once again, dear listener, to the Curator Podcast. I am your host, Mark Fraser, and this is episode number 24. Okay, so the weird thing is, right, the weird thing about podcasting is that we actually have, and by we, I mean other podcasters, we actually have no way to properly measure how long people listen to episodes for. There is no standardised way to measure that. Some services like Stitcher, they'll kind of tell you when somebody started listening to a podcast, what part they skipped, and for how long they listened to it for. But at this moment in time, most people listen to podcasts through iTunes. And iTunes has no way of calculating anything other than the number of people that have downloaded your podcast. I say all this because I'm not entirely sure how many people listen to this part, or the part after the actual interview. So yeah, there is that. It's just that's been playing on my mind recently, and I thought I'd bring it up for no other reason than basically to see who's listening to this. Anyway, hi, hello. It's episode number 24. On this episode, I have Pat from Anti-Flag. It's been a bit of a crazy week, if I'm honest. The last interview that I did was with Ian Mackay from Fugazi, Minor Threat, Discord Records, and it was awesome. It was an absolute joy. Did it over Skype. He's such a great, intelligent guy, and I can't wait to share that one with you. But on this episode, I have Pat from Anti-Flag. Now, it's interesting that these two have kind of come along, because Discord Records, Minor Threat, Fugazi, all of that are really important, both to me and to the punk rock community. One of my entry points into the punk rock community was through Anti-Flag. In 2002, I heard a song called 9/11 for Peace, which is on an EP/live thing that Anti-Flag done called Mobilise. And it was at that point that I kind of went from being someone that liked pop punk to someone sort of appreciated and realised that you can be political in music and still be, still be kind of poppy, I guess. But it was more than that. It's in that song 9/11 for Peace, there is part of that I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King, which is great. And it made me realise that there must be more. It made me sort of think, well, there must be more bands out there that are just as political and are saying stuff that's relevant to the time. So that led me down the path of finding lots and lots of punk bands, and then that was kind of my gateway into hardcore as well. And from there I found Fugazi and Minor Threat, and I just kind of went down the path. I kind of went back in time, and then also kind of went and stayed in the present as well and listened to some current bands at that era. And yeah, I just took in as much as possible. Anti-Flag were responsible for that, so that's why it was important for me to speak to them. Now, I spoke to Pat, and Pat is a fucking lovely guy. He's a very nice chap. Okay with the audio on this interview, I had a great time talking to him. I did something slightly different for it. I used a different setup, and it might be a little bit noisier than normal, but I think it's a lot more natural because it means I didn't have to hold a microphone, which can be a bit of a barrier sometimes. So yeah, I hope you're okay with that. So I'm going to open the interview with the song 9/11 for Peace, because that was my gateway drug, not just to Anti-Flag but to punk rock, and to then further on to that hardcore more generally. So yeah, I hope you enjoy that interview. This is 9/11 for Peace.
So Doing great. I'm in Glasgow. It's a little chilly for us because we came from the East Coast, and we were just actually in Australia, which was really hot, and Malaysia, which was incredibly hot. So we're not prepared for the cold weather yet. But,
neither are we.
Yeah, I think nobody's prepared for the cold. Everybody fights it off.
So you were, like you said, you're in Malaysia. That's like you guys go all over the world.
We do actually, which is it's pretty amazing. And the one thing that's interesting about that is that every city in the world. Well, not every city that we've gone into has a little punk rock community. Yeah. There's a group of people who are interested in freedom and justice and social justice issues, and they find punk rock music is a way of expressing that belief that things can be different than they are right now.
You guys have been going for over 20 years now. And
yes.
You've been involved in the punk rock community for longer than... Almost as long as I'm 30.
Yes, yeah. We've been around for a long time. And
here comes someone...
Edit that out. We're just so you know, we're in a office because it's really loud outside, and so there's people going to be coming and going through the whole time. But we've been part of a community that is, I don't enjoy other communities. Like I've played sports and I've done other things, and lots of times they're based on violence or on how big their ego is and all that stuff. And punk rock is about people trying to do something for everybody else. It seems like it's do it yourself, but it's do it yourself for other people. Uh-huh. And when that works, it's amazing. Obviously, it doesn't work all the time, but on the good days when it works, it's pretty cool. And it doesn't mean that everything's sunshine and rainbows, but in other communities, there's a lot of other bullshit that I'm not a big fan of.
So, being part of that community is probably one of the reasons why you started the record label.
Yeah, because we saw other bands and we were like, wow, these bands have something interesting to say, and nobody's given them a chance, so let's give them the tools to be able to say what they want to say. That's all a record company in its best form says you're an artist or you're somebody. It doesn't even have to be an artist. You can just be somebody who has a vision and say, you have a vision, I believe in your vision, I want to help you be able to explore that as much as you can. And I am a firm believer that the more voices are in the dialogue of any situation, diverse voices, the better off we all are. So put as many voices in as we can.
It kind of makes me wonder, like, you guys have been on a major label and lots of labels.
Yes.
So, a lot of bands will do that, but they don't necessarily stay connected to the community. So, it's like the record label, like your way of kind of keeping.
Well, actually, it is. In many ways, it is, and but just in a way of the kids who work with us. We always have young people who are working with us, and they really help us stay connected to what's going on locally in Pittsburgh, and then even nationally or internationally, because we are touring around and on buses and on airplanes and are exhausted with life and don't have time. But we have guys that sit at home and they're doing mail order, they're talking to people, they're interacting, and they're like, hey, did you hear about this? Or these guys wrote to us, they're from Malaysia and they've got a punk rock thing that they want to talk about, and they're coming out to the show. Will you guys meet with them? And we're like, yeah. So it definitely, the record label, not just the music that we hear from younger people, but also the people who work with us help us stay connected to what's going on.
And this isn't even a question. These are questions that I'm just
no. It's all good.
But I'm wondering then, when you started AF Records and now that you've been doing the band for a while, having been on the road for so long, and like, can you see does it become quite easy to see how other bands get out of touch with what's going on?
Yeah, well, and I see it with us, is that if you're traveling, 6 months of the year and playing rock shows, the last thing you want to do is go home and go to a rock show in your hometown.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a stinky club, because you've been in stinky clubs for the last 6 months. You just want to sit home and eat vegan meals with your pretty girlfriend. And it's actually very difficult to stay in touch when you're a band who travels around as much as we are. And like I said, having the record company, having those guys there at home is a very good byproduct of having that experience, because they are constantly feeding us new ideas and telling us what other people are doing that's interesting.
Unlike a lot of punk bands, though, you guys have been very fortunate and you'll be able to continue doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Every year we're like, maybe this will be the last one, but people keep calling us and say, you want to go on tour? We're like, all right. And we're a bit addicted to it, because playing shows, as many shows a year as we do, it's not very healthy for us, and it beats on your life in many ways. And but like any other drug, it doesn't matter whether it's good for you or not. You keep doing it because you're addicted to that high of being in a room with people who believe in similar ideas and care about things.
And one of the reasons I guess you keep going is because of passion, and this podcast is about passion and creativity.
Cool.
So I like to ask this question of people that I talk to, because I think it's an interesting insight. Can you it's actually a double part question, I guess. Can you remember the time when you realised that this was Anti-Flag was now like your life, your job? Can you remember when that happened?
Well, it was a long process. I envision it to flying, like a bird flying, and this is a little hippie bullshit, but I'll give it to you, because we deal with this a lot with the young bands that we work with, because they're all, they're going on tour as much as they can, but they also have to go home and have jobs, and they go home, so it's there's a lot of friction between real life and tour life and all that, and you get to this point where you're touring too much that you can't have a real job, but you're not making enough money, so you're living in somebody's basement, and your life sucks, and then like over the next 2 years, you're like, I'm living in the basement. I got rid of everything I own except for the essential things that I need. Somebody's storing them in their basement. I am functioning as a homeless person who is traveling around and coming home periodically and saying hi to my friends and then going off again. And yeah, it wasn't like, it's never a financial thing as much as it is. It's more like, how can you get rid of all the things in your life that keep you from doing it? And then when you do that, you're able to, your wings are under you and you're doing it. Now, it doesn't mean you can't fall back into that world where your feet are back on the ground again, but yeah, it's a weird transition, and every band goes through that, from having to have jobs and having or jobs that are outside of playing music. But again, with us, with the record company, it's been helpful. Is when we've had to go home, we have jobs and we do things with the record company. So we're still working when we're home. We're just not. We don't have to work at 7-Eleven or a bank or something like that. Work for somebody else.
You get to work at
things that we love. Yeah.
Which is kind of essentially punk rock, really.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and Anti-Flag as a band has always talked about the community that we're a part of, because we really believe in that and the culture of that community. But even on a microcosm, the four of us plus the 6 other guys that we interact with, it's really a community. They've been with us for, some of the guys have been with us for 10 years, our crew guys. So, and Jesse at home in the office has been with us for 10 years. So we're very lucky to be in that, have been able to build that with people who we can trust and who are there and have our backs.
Let's talk a little bit about the album, because
yes.
It's now out, and it's one of the reasons why you're here. I was reading a bunch of interviews, just doing the research, and I did realise something which is kind of weird, is that all of you guys have been interviewed. You've been asked about the meaning of American Spring, like so much.
Yeah.
And,
do we have the same answers, or do we have different answers?
It's always the same answer.
Yeah,
it's fine. That's fine. Like, but it's like, do you ever get like people just do what I do. They can hit a Google search. And
Yeah.
You know.
See, but you don't realize that yes, you are correct, that anybody can go and find the answer to any question they want about anti-flag. However, people need to go through you. You are the conduit for this community of people. So they're not going to go and Google it. They're going to listen to you, and you're going to be the conduit for our answers.
Getting asked the same questions over and
No,
over.
because specifically for I get sick of asking what my favorite song is, because that's bullshit. Nobody gives a fuck about that. Or what. Delete that one. Or what underwear I wear. But if the title of the record wasn't, if I wasn't passionate about it, I would be bored about it. But particularly with the title of this record, it's about revolution, and how revolution in the Middle East had gone from people seeking social justice and freedom and turned into civil war and extremist religious beliefs, and how to have get that change in what it was started with without having it deteriorate into ultra-violence. And it was so exciting in 2010 when these people were rising up in the town squares or city centers and saying, you know what, we don't want to live under a dictatorship anymore. We want freedom. We want to be able to make choices in our lives that are best for us. And that was an amazing thing. And how do we get that end of it without the bullshit that comes after?
Yeah.
We just watched in the truck the other night I don't even know what it was called, but it was about the Ukrainian Maidan demonstrations, and it was incredibly brutal, showing the police shooting guys and stuff. But they were able to, with, obviously there's some caveat. The Russians came in, took Crimea. They're trying to take the east, but they were able to change the government in a way that made them more free and be able to make their own choices. And hopefully it'll continue. We never know. We're always every culture is on the edge of collapse and a military dictatorship at any moment. But in the Ukraine, they're battling through, and it was pretty amazing. If you get a chance to watch a documentary, it's amazing. It's inspiring and heartbreaking at the same time. It's
interesting you bring up the culture on the edge of collapse. I kind of get the sense that the culture that we live in is also quite close to that collapse.
We lived through, and I don't know what you, in your conscious memory, lived through September 11th, but you see how you go from freedom and justice and rule of law to fear-mongering and putting people in secret prisons and torture, and how as soon as the powerful feel the fear, if there's not enough of us in the streets, they crush it. And the only way to protect us is when we all come together and go into the streets. Because they can't kill everybody in the streets. The Chinese tried. They did a very good job of clearing Tiananmen Square. But if there's enough of us in the streets, they can't kill all of us.
I'm standing with the right ball. I'm marching with the underground. Our black hearts won on our slaves. Let my imagination places, new faces I flew. Shoeless kids stood on the corner. Their eyes, they were transfixed on you. So I'm standing with the rank and file. I'm marching with the underground. Oh, my black card worn on my sleeve. I'm standing with the rank and file. I'm marching with the underground. With the black cards worn on our sleeves. Alright! Standing with the rank and file. I'm marching with the underground. Our black cards worn on our sleeves. I'm standing with the rank and file. I'm marching with the underground. Our black cards worn on our sleeves. I'm standing with the rank and file. I'm marching with the underground. Our black cards worn on our sleeves. I'm standing with the rank and file. I'm marching with the underground. Our black cards worn on our sleeves.
That just gives me the echoes of like the whole Black Lives Matter thing.
Yeah, well, exactly.
It's
Yeah.
totally the same idea. It's
Yeah.
like, well, if we rise up as one, then
It does, but
the
the drama is, and I it sounds hippie and it sounds shitty. When it goes to violence, it never wins. The state, the church, the world powers are always willing to use more violence and have more violence at their disposal. The population can never out-violence the establishment. So the only way of doing that is through winning through non-violent ways.
That's interesting because I'm just thinking about Syria now, and with the US funding like the rebels and stuff. It's like you say, like it doesn't matter what they do, they can never out-violence
Yeah.
the people that are in power.
Yeah, because there's always somebody who will say Allah wants you to do this, or Jesus Christ wants you to do this, or the United States wants you to do this, or I don't know in Glasgow, I don't know what, in UK it might be the Queen. The Queen wants you to do this.
David Cameron probably.
Yeah, David Cameron wants you to do this. They want you to shoot all these innocent women and children, and you're like, well, this isn't my fault. I'm going to do this because my whatever the cultural kingpin gives me the right to do, and that's complete bullshit. And so the population always has to go with a nonviolent way of revolution.
One of the things that struck me about American Spring is that I know you guys just did the tour a couple of years ago now of the Terror State 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
And to me, it's quite akin to that record. I think there's a lot of similarities to it. When you guys were doing the tour, did having that record in your conscious memory at that time, did that influence like the way that you went about maybe creating American Spring?
You're reading into it a lot. I wish I could say yes. I don't have. I think that because I think we had written a lot of it before that, but we definitely are always looking back at what we've done and trying to build on it. So there's always that consciousness of, is this make sense with what Anti-Flag is as a band? And I think the new record is it's a little slower than I'd like. That's always our battle within the band. Justin always wants things slower, and I always want them faster. So
they should be fast.
Yeah, that's how I feel. First one to the end of the song wins. But so on this record, Justin won. I let him win. I was like, okay, I'll play a little slower. But I still think it's great. And when we play it live, I win. I get to play a little faster.
It's been getting a good reception. You're quite happy with it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's there are moments when and this is a little weird to say, but there's moments that you have in a band when you realize that you being on stage playing the music is of no value. That the song that you wrote, somebody else has taken it and they're going to sing it, and it sort of that you're there is irrelevant. And we've had a couple of those moments with
it gets life beyond you almost.
Well, yeah. It's like they're singing it. I don't really even need to be here. They're having a great time with it. I could be at my house doing something else. Really, I'm not. There's really no need for me to be in this process. These people have decided that it's theirs and they're singing it, and I don't need to be here.
I was having an interesting conversation last night in the pub with my friend. We were talking about. He was talking about how music in his opinion, shouldn't ever become a dialogue because it's ultimately about what you want to do.
Yeah.
But Anti-Flag's music ultimately always becomes a dialogue.
It's absolutely a dialogue, and when it's a dialogue, it's at its best. When it's a monologue, it doesn't really work, and it's not interesting to me. We've always, what we've done, and maybe we'll do it tonight if this show's good, is like we'll take the drums into the crowd and play in the crowd, and that's to say, for me, that's important because today I'm on stage, tomorrow I might be in the crowd watching another band. That wall of front of stage is very malleable and very easily gone through. It's not like, oh, I'm the band, you need to stay the fuck away from me, I'm important, you're not, you're in the crowd. That's never been how we've done it. So that also lends itself to the dialogue, that it is a communication between band and people.
Which is ultimately at the heart of community and punk rock.
That's the way I see it. Everybody doesn't have to see it that way, but that's the way I see it.
With punk rock being a dialogue, another question I'd like to ask, and I don't really ask.
And if you don't agree with me, I'll tell you to fuck off. That's there is that element of the dialogue.
When did punk rock become the thing that you knew you were going to do?
When did it become a thing that I knew I was going to do?
Yeah. Can you remember that moment where you went, "Oh shit, that is
I do.
For me"?
I do. We played a show, or we didn't. It was before I was in a band. I always wanted to be in a band, but Justin and I went to a show. A guy was naked, hanging from the doorway, with a guitar on, playing noise, and I was like, "This does not happen in my high school. This is where I need to be." Fucking weirdos and fuck ups and just people who are a mess, who see the world differently. That's where I want to be. And from that point on, I'm still here, looking for the other weirdos and fuck ups who see the world differently.
Was drums always the thing that you would like to do when you seen that?
Well, my dad played drums, so I had drums in the house. It's interesting because Justin plays drums, plays bass. He can play anything. He's actually, both Justin and Tu are better drummers than I am. But
don't tell them that.
No, they're very aware. They tell me that every day. But I can't play anything else. So they're like, okay, when Justin and I were in a band, when we were really young, because Justin and I have been together forever, when we were really young, if we'd find a guitar player, he'd play bass. If we found a bass player, he'd play guitar. And there were bands that he played drums and I wasn't in. I had to be in another band. So we got to the point where he's like, okay, I'll play guitar, you play drums, and we'll just try this, and we'll try and find bass players. So, and we've been amazingly lucky to have Tu in the band for the last 10, 12 years now, and Head's been in the band for 13 years, so...
And now you're sitting here talking to me in the club.
Yeah, I'm still fucking here. I'm still here.
Yeah, it was something I wanted to touch on a little bit with just the message of American Sprint.
Yes.
And that you come to Scotland at a very interesting political time.
Because of refugees, or because of
that's part of it. But
yeah.
The independence referendum.
Yeah. My heart bleeds for you.
Yeah. I don't.
I was rooting for it. We were in the States, and we were rooting for it.
But we also had the general election this year, and 56 of the 59 MPs that sit in the House of Parliament for Scotland are all Scottish nationalist parties, which is great because that's what we want, because it gives us a bigger voice than we've ever had.
Yeah.
Nationalist Party in Scotland does not mean
doesn't mean it's not like the British National Party.
Yeah, it's like the Nationalist Party is now kind of left wing party, I guess. Because man, I don't know if I should talk about this because it's just all about. I hate talking about. I hate my own voice being on these fucking things so much, man. But yeah,
no, educate me. I always want to know.
But I could be wrong, and someone's going to listen back and go, "You're fucking wrong, man." No,
that's all right. It's an opinion.
My degree's in Scottish literature, so I studied, and obviously connected to literature with politics. You can't get away from that, So I'm very much a cultural nationalist. I believe that Scotland is culturally distinct from Britain. I believe England has an identity crisis because it doesn't have an identity of its own. It's always British, it's never English, So for me, being an independent country was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And the question on the paper was, should Scotland be an independent country, yes or no? And that's
it's already culturally independent. Yeah.
Linguistically independent. I would say linguistically independent.
Yeah.
So some would disagree with that. But I would say that. But you come at the reason I bring it up is because the whole Arab Spring was very kind of powered by this new media, social media, and
Yes.
people mobilising. There's never been a time in my life that I can remember, apart from last year, when people were more mobilised in my country to actually take a stand on something,
Yeah.
be yes or be no, and social media had a large part to do with that, you know.
And in that, we have to remember, because everybody talks about the social media. The social media is only the tool.
Yeah.
It's only the passion. It has to come from the people. The being on the right side of the issue always has to come from the people. How you tell your friends and how you encourage other people to get involved. That's, there's always new technology to do that. But you have to be on the right side of the issue, which is the most important thing.
It's interesting how the dynamics change though, because younger people are now able to become more engaged through the use of social media, which is a staggering thing. Like 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been. Obviously, it wasn't like that at all. And we weren't that fussed about it. Like, I remember when Scotland had this parliament devolved in 1997, which was kind of like half independence almost. But like that was like a hairline thing. That was like a very, very slim sort of majority that made that happen. But like people are still engaged after that. It was last year now, and I was sceptical. I was like, it's the issue of the day.
Yeah.
And the social media is so fleeting that they're going to be engaged for a minute and then it's going to be gone.
Yeah. But it's stuck.
It's not only is it stuck, but I think it's actually increasing now, because it was promised if we voted no, then you would be given more powers by the Parliament, which has turned out not to happen.
Yeah.
And people who voted no have kind of went, you guys actually did lie to us, so maybe we were right in the first place, and you've kind of fucked it up. So.
Well, yeah, and it's the interesting thing that I've learned in my years as part of this community is that political battles come and go. There's definitely a fashion, and they touch on this a little bit in the Ukrainian movie where they're talking about the revolution, is that there was talk of people giving up and saying, you know what, we're going to let this go, and they say that they're going to do it, but unless you strike while the iron's hot, it never comes back again, at least in a period of time.
Yeah.
So when you have that momentum, you have to push it all the way through, because if you don't, you're never going to get that momentum back in that way at that time when things can actually change. Which is, it's sad, because in that sense they started shooting the protest in Ukraine. They started shooting the activists in the streets, and they're like, no, we can't leave because we've got it. This is our one time in history to make this happen, and we have to do it. And they realized that, and it worked ultimately. So when media and when culture and when it all comes together and things can change, you really have to push it, because it's not like a slope that keeps continuing and you're going to get more and more. Either it's going to go and then it's going to fall and people are going to be engaged in something else. So you got to get the change when it's there.
With the way that social media has caused people both in Scotland and during the Arab Spring to become engaged, are you seeing that now in America with the current election?
Oh yeah. Everybody's using the social media, but the powerful are using social media too.
They've got the money to spend.
Yeah, in the States, it's not just young people who are using social media; it's everybody who's using social media.
You guys are just looking pretty ropey, like over there with potentially 2 dynasties in the offing.
Yeah.
Trump, who's given far more time than is ever required.
Yeah. It's Trump is a media genius, but a political shithead.
Yeah.
And a bigot. So
Very scary, man.
Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I hope so too.
Yeah.
I'm going to come to this now. I should have said it at the start, but you guys kind of. I started listening to punk rock music when I was 12 years old, and I listened to Americana by The Offspring, and then I got into the metal thing, and that led to Rage Against the Machine, who made me politically aware. But it wasn't until I'd really heard Mobilise by Anti-Flag that it was the MLK speech and then that kind of went.
And the MLK
can do that.
and it's funny because the Martin Luther King family did not approve of that, and we had a lot of trouble getting that. And in the end, they never approved it. We just put it in anyway, and they said we know it's there, but they didn't come after us, which is sort of funny that they're very tight with his legacy and what they'll let people use, which makes sense. But yeah, that song was written like 2 or 3 days after September 11th and recorded like a week, and we released it a couple weeks after. And because Justin felt as though we needed to make a statement that dropping bombs on people's heads was not going to solve the world's problems. And here we are 14 and a half years later or whatever, and still dropping bombs on people's heads and expecting things to be different.
But you guys were kind of responsible for, I guess, my being active politically. Like, the Rage Against the Machine, they were just broken up at the time, so I didn't feel as though they had much power anymore, even though the music is just hugely powerful, and I love that music. I love Tom Morello and Zach as
Old Man Morello is a good man.
Yeah,
we
Zach
love him.
Is a genius as well. But like, you guys are basically responsible for getting me into politics.
Oh, awesome.
And now, after being through uni for 4 years and doing philosophy, I'm now probably quite a lot more anarchist than most people are.
Well done, I like it.
But I guess it makes me wonder, when did that political switch in you like flip? When did you realise that like, because not everybody gets it, not everybody punk rock gets it. Punk rock's not really about, a lot of punk isn't really about politics anymore. So the fact you're still doing it is fucking awesome. But when did you realise that was going to be something that you focused on?
We came out of a community that was very politically focused. The general population in the city of Pittsburgh is a working class union town. That's sort of the vibe of Pittsburgh. But then the music that the community that we grew up in, all the other bands were political bands. There's a band called Osrotten, which is a internationally known anarcho-punk band, and they were a little bit older than us. So the music community that we grew up specifically was very punk rock. But for me, specifically, my family, we were always talking about ideas and had a lot of conversations about around the dinner table. I remember one time I called my father a fascist communist because I did not know what the hell I was talking about when I was 11 years old. He said, well, that's interesting. I realized that you would say that you're frustrated you'd say that, but actually communists are very different than fascists, and explained to me what the difference between a communist and a fascist was. And so while he was very right-wing, he allowed me to have different opinions. And then for me, coming from a blue-collar, working-class town, I'm a believer that music and art is only valuable when it gets work done. And I feel like music that gets work done is the most important. And bands like The Clash and bands like even Fugazi and getting work done in different ways, that makes sense to me. If the music is just there to make you feel good, it's just not interesting to me. It doesn't connect with me.
Yeah, I did just notice you've recently toured with Warren Women, who are one of my
brilliant. She's amazing.
And obviously the punk rock community is supposed to be as inclusive as possible. But I tend to find that there's and certainly in Glasgow and in Britain at least, it's very heteronormative.
Of course.
And there's obviously a huge problem with Warren Women stand out to me because they're saying things which everyone says, but nobody really says in music.
Yeah.
You know, but they're part of a community which is not well known for its inclusivity of females, which makes me disheartened because I love punk rock and I think it is for everyone. It is for everyone, you know. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is like, do you see that in your local community? Is there a lot more inclusiveness, like for genders and races?
No. It's a struggle. It is a struggle. It's very true that punk rock is usually white boys, middle class white kids. It doesn't mean that we're not open to other people. It's just that that's the people who tend to be there. That is the ultimate irony of punk rock, is that we're talking about these issues, but mainly to ourselves. We just we're on tour with Warren Women in the States a couple months ago, and we definitely need more voices that are different. And if you've got them, I'd love to hear them and give them bigger voices.
Have you heard White Lung? They're a phenomenal band. They're like They're a punk band. They're from America. They're very good.
Okay, I'll check it out.
You should definitely check them
Yeah.
out. Guitar player's amazing.
Yeah, we have actually. It's funny. I don't. Well, I'll tell you about this after the podcast, but we'll talk about Warm Women a little bit.
Yeah. Well, Pat, it's been an absolute honour and a pleasure talking to you.
Brilliant. It was awesome.
Is there anything else you want to ask me before, or anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
All I want to say is don't wait for somebody else to do it. You can do it better.
It's an excellent note to end on. Pat, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So yeah, there you have it. Pat from Anti-Flag. What a great guy. What a lovely chat. He was really good company. He was up for talking and very intelligent guy, but also very grounded. It has not escaped me that the thing Anti-Flag do with AF Records is probably very similar to what Discord Records do. They're both about preserving a community, preserving the past of a community, and being there, being a beacon in the present for what it can and should be. It was great to hear Pat talk about that, talk about Anti-Flag's newest record, which is really good, by the way. It's called American Spring, so you should check it out. That's all for this episode. Thank you very much for listening. Please take some time to go over to the website, thecuratorpodcast.com, and check it out. I've got some cool stuff on there. Sign up for the newsletter, check me out on Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Just go over the website, have a look, have a wee look around, and share it with your friends. Please share this podcast with your friends. I have a really good audience, a really interactive audience, but I could do with it getting into more ears, because I think people enjoy what I'm doing, and I think more people would enjoy it. So if you could do that, I would really appreciate that. I'm going to play you out now with a song from Anti-Flag's new album. This is the first song on that record. It's quite a political song. It's quite poppy, quite catchy. It's great. This song is called Fabled World. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for listening. Until next time, bye-bye.